And now here's my interview about the film Sensitive Parts. All right, Brendan Prost, thank you for talking to us today.
Nathan, it's great to be back on CJSW. Thank you for having me.
Sure thing. Now, before we talk about your new film, Sensitive Parts, can you give our listeners a little background info about you as a filmmaker? Give us the when and how did it all get started?
Yeah, well, I was born and raised in Calgary, and I started my career on stage, doing plays at Theatre Calgary and Stage West and things like that, and eventually got into acting for film and television when I was kind of in my early teens and adolescence. And as I was doing that, and I was kind of super excited and very inspired to be around film sets, I was also kind of discovering, just watching movies on my own, and I started dabbling, picking up a DV camera that we had around our house and just shooting some, random stuff and just kind of teaching myself how to make films of my own. And it was kind of a point that I was going through a rough patch in my teenage years, as we all do, and I made a film that was actually kind of really meaningful to me and no longer was just kind of an exercise to teach myself the craft. And I discovered it was a really vital means of expressing myself, and I've kind of been doing it ever since. And the production method actually hasn't even changed that much either. I've been very much a DIY filmmaker, kind of making very small scale short and feature film projects. I've done 4 feature film projects, Sensitive Parts being the most recent. And I'd say they're all pretty formally eclectic, but they're all really kind of personal stories. And because of my background as an actor, they're all very driven by the work that actors do. They're very performance intensive and very character driven. And I would say they're also quite earnest in spirit. They really kind of yearn to connect with an audience and to be understood. So although I have definitely art house sensibility in style, in terms of intention, I'm generally pretty modest in my ambitions. Just kind of want to move people and make films that emotionally connect with an audience.
Okay. Well, so your new one, which is called Sensitive Parts, tell us about what the film is about and also what's in a name.
Yeah. Sensitive Parts is about an insecure young woman named Dolore who has a fair bit of kind of unfortunate romantic baggage, stuff that is just not gone well in her romantic past that has left her with some scars. But she's kind of on the upswing, and she's starting this relationship with this new guy, and it seems to be going really good. And her best friend, Sinead, is finally going to move back in town. And what happens is, when Sinead is back in town and she introduces her to her new boyfriend, she discovers that they have a less-than-platonic personal history. And although that may seem kind of a very small, trivial bit of their interpersonal history to most of us, for Dolore, who is a person who constitutes her self-worth in the eyes and her individuality in how other people see her, this is quite debilitating and quite destructive for her. So she kind of goes to sabotage both of those relationships as her anxiety starts to get the better of her. So ultimately, it's about her story learning to combat those negative ideas about herself that she has and those impulses that she has to self-sabotage with the help of her best friend Sinead, this new boyfriend Ryan, both of them who don't let her go without a fight, and the imaginary manifestation of an iconic pop star who very much resembles Beyonce. So it's a movie about kind of resilience of a female friendship, learning a little bit of self-love and social anxiety. And Sensitive Parts, I think the name is very much it's Dolore in the movie is a very sensitive character, and there are certain things that are real triggers for her. And in particular, in this dramatic situation that she finds herself into, it's related to kind of an intimate thing that she prizes feeling unique and special in her intimate interactions with people, and then when that is disrupted, it's very upsetting and very violating for her. So it's kind of a funny tongue-in-cheek play on the idea of like her sensitivities as a person tied with what kind of sensitivity it is to like her intimate life.
You speak on the website for the film, which is sensitivepartsfilm.com, that your original vision underwent some change midway through your very fast shoot of only 12 days.
Yeah, well, like my previous feature film, Spaces and Reservations, was it's a very harrowing, dramatic film. So after that, I really wanted to make something that would be considerably lighter and a bit more of a straight comedy. But I think by nature of the kind of material that we were working with on Sensitive Parts, and Carolyn, the main actress in the film, both share a really, I think, powerful personal connection to these themes of anxiety and these kinds of insecurity as they were digging into the movie. By nature of us, delving into the drama of that and wanting to do that, explore that as truthfully as possible, sometimes the comedic beats ended up kind of a little bit on the back burner. And it certainly was the case that because it was such a fast and intense shoot, only in 12 days, as you mentioned, that sometimes in pursuit of getting the scene right in a short amount of time, you have to prioritize things. And the priority number one is always to speak honestly about the drama that's happening in the scene, and then hopefully to capture the comedy later. And so I think kind of what ended up happening is the movie, I think, has still a lot of lovely, very funny moments, and it really goes on a bit of a roller coaster ride between these silly, outlandish pieces of situational humor down to these really resonant character moments. But it ended up being a little bit more of a straight drama interspersed with comedic beats and bits of comedy than kind of a straight comedy, which I don't mind at all. I think it's a wonderful mixed bag of tones, and it was kind of just kind of a fun thing to discover while we were shooting, that it was perhaps a little bit more serious to all of us than we thought it was.
So to give our listeners an idea of where they can go to watch the film, let's give that information out maybe first, and then delve just a little bit more into the process of what it was like to accomplish that sort of distribution as an independent filmmaker.
Yeah, so after a really brief theatrical tour, which included screenings in Calgary and Vancouver and in Toronto, the movie just recently became available online via iTunes and Google Play and Amazon Prime and Amazon Instant Video, as well as Vimeo On Demand and Vudu, which you can access from your cable plan, depending on who your provider is. And basically, it's a DIY distribution method. We didn't have a festival premiere for the movie, which is usually the launching point for how you would find yourself a distributor or someone who would kind of take care of getting your movie out to an audience. We weren't lucky enough to have that, sadly, but we weren't willing to kind of let the movie go into the nothingness, into the void. And so I worked with a sales aggregator, a couple of different ones who could get us up on those platforms, so at least we could be accessible to people, and the internet strangers of the world could perhaps discover us, if not now, at some point in the future. So yeah, that's and if people go to sensitivepartsfilm.com, as you mentioned, they can find links to whatever online shopping platform is their choice.
You had some very nice words from the film editor of the Globe and Mail about your film.
Yeah, we were really, really fortunate. At the end of the theatrical run for our screening in Toronto, Barry Hertz, the arts editor of the Globe and Mail, reviewed the movie and said it was the best way to spend $8,000, which was the budget of the movie, and said that Carolyn's performance was unnerving, described the movie as captivating, and he had some really kind and really generous words to the movie. And that was to get a piece of national press coverage for a little movie like that in print and in online was a huge accomplishment for us, and we're really grateful to the Globe and Mail for doing that.
Yeah, that certainly is very nice. So just winding down the interview here, I'd just like to ask you a couple more questions. One is, what are you up to next?
Right now, I finished a short film that I shot just before I left Vancouver, and so I hope to have that in film festivals this fall. So I hope to be back in Calgary to share that with you guys very soon. I'm shooting 2 short film projects over the summer, and I will also be shadowing a couple of directors on their television shows here in Toronto in the hopes of like getting into the world of directing television. And I have a series that I'm developing, and a feature film that I'm trying to put together the financing for. So I'm making a very concerted effort to kind of take my small DIY filmmaking practice and to transform it into a bit more of a career and less of a artistic practice and as a hobby. But I'm really kind of figuring it out as I go, and I'm not not always especially very good at it. But I have lots of projects on the go, and I do have a couple of completed, finished things that will be out very soon.
Well, good luck to you. One more question. What is a movie that you've seen recently that you would like to recommend to our listening audiences besides hopefully your own?
Okay. Kind of try and think of something a little bit more obscure so that my recommendation is like super, super valuable. Well, one of the things that I rewatched recently, I was on Norm Wilner's podcast, Someone Else's Movie, and we were talking about Nights and Weekends. And Nights and Weekends is like a seminal film for me by Joe Swanberg and Greta Gerwig. And it's the most, I would say the most intimate and unbelievably surprising high wire performance act that I've ever really seen on movies. It's a totally improvised relationship drama about this long-term couple trying to make things work, and then in the second half split apart. And it's a little difficult to find online, but it's I think one of the best kind of recent American movies that I've seen, and it's very small scale and very lo-fi and very raw, but heartrending. And so if people can watch Nights and Weekends, I'd recommend they check that out. And you can also hear me and Norm Wilner talk about it for about an hour on Norm's podcast pretty soon.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to us, and hope to talk to you again on your future projects.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nathan. It's great speaking with you again, and thanks so much.
That was Brendan Prost speaking to me about his new film called Sensitive Parts. If you visit the film's website, sensitivepartsfilm.com, you can find all the information about where you can visit to watch it online, including Google Play, iTunes, Amazon Prime, Vudu, Vimeo On Demand, and Amazon Instant Video.